All right, in this video, I'm going to show you how to read one box in the periodic table. So let's just start with the simplest example, which is hydrogen, and that's going to be the first element on the periodic table. It is in the upper left-hand corner. Now, the most basic periodic table will give you these three pieces of information. The letter in the center is called the chemical symbol. Each element on the periodic table has a unique 1 or 2 letter code. Be sure you're careful with capital and lowercase. So the first letter is always capital, and if there's a second letter, it's going to be lowercase. You got to be careful about that. The number in the upper left-hand corner is called the atomic number. And the number at the bottom is called the atomic mass. Now, the number assigned to each element isn't random. The atomic number represents the number of protons in an atom of that element. Additionally, if the atom is neutral, which for our purposes right now they'll always be neutral, it also represents the number of electrons. So remember, protons are positive, P for positive, electrons are negative, and so there should be an equal number of protons and electrons in a neutral atom, so an atom with 0 net charge. Now, what the atomic mass represents is a little bit more complex, but we're going to get into the details of what the atomic mass represents a little bit later on in the semester. For now, what you need to know is that the number of neutrons is equal to the atomic mass minus the atomic number. And what we're going to do when we're calculating is we're going to always round the atomic mass to the nearest whole number. So let's look at hydrogen as an example. If I want to know the number of neutrons, I would do the atomic mass, but remember I'm going to round to the nearest whole number, so that's 1, minus the atomic number, which is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. So all of this information tells us, or if I were to ask you, a hydrogen atom has 1 proton, right, because the atomic number is 1. It has 1 electron. Again, atomic number is 1. And 0 neutrons. Let's look at another example. Let's look at oxygen. Okay, so for oxygen, the chemical symbol is O. The atomic number is 8. And the atomic mass is 15.999. So if I were to ask you how many protons, electrons, and neutrons does a neutral oxygen atom have? Just based on the periodic table, you can answer all those questions. Now, the easiest thing to answer is protons and electrons. Remember, the atomic number up here tells us how many protons and electrons an oxygen atom has, so that's 8. To find the number of neutrons, remember we take the atomic mass minus the atomic number, and we're going to round this to the nearest whole number. So that's going to be 16 minus 8, which is 8. It's that easy. So an oxygen atom has 8 protons, 8 electrons, and 8 neutrons. Let's look at one more example. We were talking about this the other day. Let's look at gold. Okay, so the chemical symbol for gold is Au. Notice how when I wrote the second letter is lowercase. That's going to be really important. If you look at the periodic table, a capital U is uranium. So this would get really confusing if we don't use our capitals and lower cases. If I were to ask how many protons, electrons, and neutrons a gold atom has, you can get all this information from the periodic table. So the atomic number represents the number of protons, and it represents the number of electrons. So a gold atom, a neutral gold atom, has 79 protons and 79 electrons. To find the number of neutrons, remember we do the atomic mass minus the atomic number. We're going to round this to the nearest whole number. And so the nearest whole number to 196.967 is 197. So to find the number of neutrons, we're going to do 197 minus 79. And so I'll do that right here. And we get 118. So a gold atom, a neutral gold atom, has 79 protons, 79 electrons, and 118 neutrons. So that's just a basic introduction to how to read the periodic table, and we're going to learn more and more about how it's organized a little bit later on.